Good evening. If you'll notice, I had some spelling problems with my title. I did that on purpose because, like, I don't want to be on anybody's radar, if you know what I mean. So, I'm going to go turn on another light because it looks red in here, but it's not. We're not the red light district. Okay, hopefully that's a little better. Anyway, so I have so much to talk about. And I just don't quite feel like talking about it yet. It's just this mountain of information that came through leading up to the full moon. So I would love to know if you guys had a really incredible experience with this past full moon. And I actually woke up right when it was setting, and it was just spectacular. And I even went outside and took pictures of it. And then as soon as it set, I just felt this exhaustion, and I realized it's because I'd been downloaded and downloaded. And I'm not going to go about this yet because this is really big and I want to give it its due, but I just finished reading this. This gal was interviewed by the Journey to Truth guys and a whole bunch of others, and if you just put her name in the YouTube, you'll come up with all kinds of interviews. And I like the one she gave, the Journey to the Truth guys, because they're just so, they draw out deeper information from people because they're deep people. So anyway, a lot of people contacted her right after she self-published this and got a lot of help from her guides, and they began telling her this triggered a whole bunch of memories for me, and like I've had this transformational experience, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And guess what happened? I've just finished transcribing the spontaneous memories that I had one day. They just like came through, and I was crying and stuff, and I finally just recorded them, and I've had a massive paradigm shift, which I will share at a later date. But today I did remote view. Like, this was just one of my taskings I wrote out for myself, put in this box like in April or May. I wrote out like 50 of them and just threw them in. And I was doing that for a while, and then I just stopped for like 6 months. And yesterday, or this morning, I just felt really compelled to start getting in that discipline again of just listening to the binaural beats. And I highly recommend this, and I know I've mentioned this before, but just go to the YouTube channel called Pure Theta and go to the one, it looks corny, but it says declassified against it or something like that, or classified, probably classified. And when you listen to that, it's 4 hertz in one ear and 7 in the other, and it creates this interference pattern which gets your brain into a theta state. And when I listen to that, I just focus on listening to the silence. And I think it's a very powerful, really good thing for your brain, your psyche, your consciousness. So anyway, I did that. Remote viewed all this stuff, got all these interesting pages of stuff. And then I looked at the tasking, and it said, describe ancient activity in antactartica. That's just what I'll call it. Because there's shit going on there, and you and I know it. And I had misspelled the word ancient really badly when I wrote it, because I guess I was just ripping them off, you know. And I think misspelling the word ancient kind of, loosened up the intention of it, because I got 3 different viewings, and they were 3 really different time frames. So I will share with you what I got. Okay, here's the first one. It's always just a squiggle that like doesn't make sense to people, but it gives you something to work with. Like tarot cards give your psyche something to work with. This is what I got. There was a sadness and a sweetness, a buoyant, like a balloon. There was a feeling of a comforting nook, sweet, sacred, special, cherished. There were many playful elements. It felt like, and if you can see, I drew in sort of, it felt like a water course. Zoom, 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 and just going through all this. It was very fun and playful. It felt like there was like healthy exertion and strength. And then at one point in the line, there was a tremendous sense of distance and time. like vast, just in one line, and then it just went, came to an end. And this, if you'll notice, looks a little bit like a wave. And we have had that described to us by somebody in a secret program. Talks about a big wave that turned this into Pompeii on ice and just flash froze everything. It was probably it was definitely a big climatic event. It might have been a pole shift. But anyway, what I got was just this kind of came to a end. There was a release and kind of a relief that some stage of something was over, and then a very slow stop. Like something ended and then it came to a stop. There was a sense of crying, like there was an accomplishment. There was a sense of loss, feeling of poignance, looking back, like, yeah, that was really hard. And I got this kind of mesh webbing covering over a structure, and I don't know what that is, but it was bendable. There was water, sand, it was hard, round, and cool. I think this was the first iteration of a civilization that was happening there. It was wonderful. And the tall, thin bodies that were found there were actually similar to the Lemurian Atlantean memories I had. Everyone was like tall and thin. Gravity might have been less on the planet back then. Okay, here's the second viewing. And just remember, this is all blind. I have no idea what I'm looking at. This one is like, it starts out with a zigzag, there's a natural-ish structure of some kind, and then someone appears on the scene and starts going crazy building. And there's a lot of buildings, and there's a feeling of a city. And immediately when I saw these buildings, and this is a traditional shape in remote viewing of an artificial structure, and they look like artificial structures, and immediately I just felt tired. And I had a completely different feeling about everything that was going on here. It seemed like a big thing, but yeah, there was a sense of progress, development. It was boring city architecture. It felt pointless to me. I was having a very strong personal reaction, and that's something that can happen in remote viewing, is that on a certain level, your consciousness is interacting with something and it's having its own unique personality-based response to it. And this may also be a soul response, a past life response, a part of me that's more informed about what was going on than my conscious mind. Anyway, so then I wrote kind of a little summation. Something is there, like natural structures, a natural presence of some kind, a being or a subject moves it into building a city. It feels ambitious and soulless, futile. Strong reaction of how tired this makes me feel. Futility, not my values. So maybe this was a second iteration. We know that there's a downed spaceship, super, super, super advanced, and then that technology was, the word used was cannibalized to build a city, to build other things, because this was a mothership. It was just absolutely huge, and it's still down there. So I think when it was tropical and beautiful, like God knows how many epochs ago, it was natural. It was very human. And then this happened. So I'm just kind of summing up all of this. I really should be using more technical information, like this is what the data showed, not like coming to conclusions and saying grand sweeping statements as though it's true. So forgive me for doing that. Here's the third iteration of, I think very possibly well, I'll let you draw your own conclusions. How's that? Here's what I got. There was a sense of electricity at first. There was just this zzz, zzz, here's where the line starts, and then goes down to this. It's like a volt. It's a jolt. There's electricity and a buzz, and then a jolt, and then there's this reversal energy. It's very hard to describe, but it's like something natural was distorted and reversed and made into the opposite of itself. And it resulted in just distortions that felt very disturbing to me. There was, I wrote the word signal and chaos, signal, chaos. And then so I'll just show you the line. So here's that initial jolt, and then it's this static. There's a reversal. Then it's turned into this really weird shit. And then it comes around. This is a completely different structure, and there are two little kind of googlies on either side of this sphere. The sphere felt really good. It was smooth, round, calm. It sort of resembled the headphones, you know, two on either side of one on either side of my head. There was a sense of balance and relief. The answer to my inquiry, so I'm still blind here. I don't know what the inquiry is, but the answer that's been given feels like it's saying this. This is very complicated, varied. There are many moving pieces and parts. A life, mine, like as though I was looking at a lifetime. I had a feeling that I was looking at a large span of time, and it felt personal. A lifetime feels happy, free, expressive. Big picture is that I really enjoyed the ride like a water course. Then a picture of natural things like a group of people on the land being developed into a modern city. I hate it. It goes on and on. The third piece, someone working with electricity. It feels that unnatural things are made, kind of a Frankenstein feel. And I wrote this too. Energy creates subjects that are distorted. And then there's a very weird combination of subject and energy. It's like you couldn't call it a person. You couldn't call it energy. It just gave me the frickin' willies. And it ends with peace, a round, even structure like a cauldron, balance, communication between poles, still electric, but balanced, kind, and human. So what do you think? Here's my conclusion. I think it's giving us 3 major chapters in the history of the area known as Antactartica. And the first was a very normal, warm, human, agrarian population. And then there was a high level of civilization that very much resembled what we hear of Atlantis, very cold and soulless, very much about technology. And then the current epoch, you know, when the Nazis moved in to Swaziland, and then all the shit that went on there, the experimentation, the really disturbing shit that went on many, many layers below. But then it ends with, it's all okay now. There's this big, like a cauldron, and it just feels good. I don't know what it is. There's a sense of energy is still being used down there, electricity, but it's in balance. I thought it was interesting. I said their communication between the poles. I didn't know I was looking at the South Pole. There might be a communication going on, a holistic kind of energy now, because we know from the recent whistleblower testimony. So it was Stephen Greer that had that expose a couple months ago, and then on the Sean Ryan show, he interviews a bunch of people, all three or four of the major whistleblowers, and one of them worked down in Antactartica and saw energy weapons, earthquake generating type of technology. So I think, I don't know, I've got that. It gives me reason to hope that it's under good guy control now. And I just wanted to share that. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was interesting timing. You know, it'd be interesting if we get some news about down there, you know, coming up. So anyway, have a lovely evening, and I will talk to you soon. Please leave a comment. Tell me what you think and, you know, your intuition and such. Okay.